What's up, Coach Robbie?
Happy Thursday, Mike Terrali. Today is January 18th, 2018. This is Crushing Iron. We do talk about triathlon podcast.
Are we going to talk about triathlon today?
I figure we could. We've had a few requests.
Yeah?
Yeah. Be more consistent, talk about triathlon, and do a better job.
I was going to ask, do you guys have any extra steroids over there?
Seriously. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, what's going down? The little boy's got a little
Yeah,
sick?
he's Hayden, this time of year. I mean, everybody really. I mean, I've got a lot of athletes with the flu as well, or quote unquote. What the hell is some flu-like symptoms? Like, it's either the flu or it's not. But that have are just like, with it being 60 over the weekend and 30, and now in like the negatives, everybody gets sick, but he's gotten sick, and so we put him, anytime he coughs or wheezes, we put him back on his nebulizer and their steroids. And so sometimes it has like I don't know, it's kind of depending on the day. Sometimes it'll make him like super sleepy, and other days it'll make him super wired. It's kind of,
he starts pumping iron and stuff.
And he just goes like ballistic. He like runs around the house like a million miles an hour with his lawnmower, and he just goes to town. Like, it's just, it's like he's on crack or something. It's kind of funny to watch. And then when you want him to take a nap, it's not funny anymore.
No,
because he needs to get some sleep, especially when he's sick like this. So yeah, we've been cooped up in the house for the last 3 days, 4 days technically. He was at a daycare last Friday with the impending, Code Red Snowmageddon here in Nashville. And then Monday was Martin Luther King Day. And then the last 2 days, here Tuesday, Wednesday, his daycare has been closed. So a lot of QT time, but when he's sick, it's makes for a whole different ballgame. So yeah, he's jacked up on some albuterol at the moment. And I'm trying to get him registered for a few races, little infant sprints. So maybe he can take, maybe they're not doing any testing, and he can take a couple W's to start off his career.
come on. Is there infant sprints?
No, there's not infant sprints.
Oh,
like
okay.
maybe infant sprints up and down the hallway, but that's about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I like that lawnmower thing. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it goes crazy. He goes, and it makes these it's noisy. And so, he makes him love it even more. And so, yeah, he goes to town. Speaking
of steroids and PEDs, that article you posted about the gentleman, was he in my age group?
He's a little bit older than you.
That seems impossible.
He's 60, 64.
Oh, okay, yeah. That guy's
like that. He's way out of your league. He's way out of a lot of people's leagues. Well, he was, because he was. But that's the thing,
mentor for me.
What'd you say?
He could be a mentor for me.
He could, and then you'd get popped, and you could just quote unquote retire. But yeah, there's, I think I touched on it. I don't know if it was last podcast or before, but about that. I always kind of look at outliers too, and I had an athlete compete at an Ironman event this last year, late in the year, and I think was third in his age group, and at an Ironman event, and was looking for a Kona slot, and everybody, if you look at most athlete results, regardless of the age group, they're usually all pretty close. Sometimes you could have 10 people within 5 minutes. And sometimes there's there's one person who's out in front by 15 to 20 or 30, and that usually means that person's a really, really good athlete, obviously, but that maybe the competition was down. But the individual who won this age group, an older age group, won by over an hour, and you just look at it and you're like, okay, whatever. But it's common. It's rampant. It is, in my opinion, way more common in the amateur ranks, at least in triathlon, than it is in the professionals. And if you're part of our Crushing Iron closed group, on Facebook, we have a pretty interesting thread going there. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, at a race, there's let's take Ironman Wisconsin for example. There's 3,000 participants, and at this last year's event, there was only about 20 male professionals, and not only are there fewer, so you got 20 compared to 2,980, and then you got I would say probably 80 to 85% of those triathletes make way more than the average professional triathlete.
Mm-hmm.
So pros, in my opinion, have a hard time even justifying the monetary, the financial expense to dope. But the sad reality is that most triathletes really don't even know what the rules are. If you're taking testosterone and you go to a race and you are one of the a miracle happens and you get tested for whatever reason and you don't have a actual TUE, which is short for a therapeutic use exemption, you are considered doping, and you could be hit from a variety of punishments, whether it's 6 months, a year, a 2-year ban, or whatever. But and the sad part is a lot of people just don't even know the rules. And you see athletes, in the professional ranks all the time, they'll pop positive, quote unquote, for, what they would say a diluted sample, which not a diluted sample, a diluted supplement that they took over the counter from a GNC or a vitamin shop or whatever, bodybuilders maxbicep.com or something online, where they buy a product and it's also manufactured. And so the best example I could give you is people who have nut allergies. They buy and they look at products, and there's always this caveat that says, while this product or food or whatever may not have nuts in it, it is in fact made in a facility where there are nuts. So they kind of have that asterisk. So, hey, in case you go on an anaphylactic shock, we're covered. Because let's just say one happened to fall in there, and that's the same goes for supplements. For each supplement you buy, it's made in either a co-packing facility or another supplemental factory that does just loads of different supplements. And one might be illegal and one might be legal. But if they produce these things back to back to back and they don't clean their equipment well, listen, I had this article somewhere, it's a few years old, I'd have to really dig to find it, but it was a study on what they found in these supplements you got from a GNC or something, and I think over 60% of them had ingredients in the actual capsule that weren't listed on the actual bottle.
Wow.
because of cross contamination. So it really just comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to education, it comes down to doing your due diligence, and honestly it comes down to that thought process of, do I honestly, for real, I get that there's some things that you need, I don't know, vitamin D or iron this time of year when you're not getting a lot of sunlight, especially for women, but what do you really need to pop a pill?
It's a good question.
And that's the society we live in, where pills always make everything better. I always used to when I used to work for a supplement store a long time ago, 10 years ago, we would always wait for March 1st when everybody, all the high school and college boys and girls would come in for the weight loss pills about 3 weeks out from spring break, because they were I'm going to drop 15 pounds in 2 weeks and I'm going to look great in my swim trunks and in my bikini for spring break. And you're that's not really how it works. But so many these supplements and these pills that I think people become psychologically dependent on them, and we're going on down a whole new rabbit hole here. But it just comes down to education and knowledge, and USAT and a lot of other people don't do a very good job of educating the consumer. But I think that's also for good reason, in that they don't want their consumers to be deterred, because I don't honestly think that Ironman or USAT actually gives a shit about people popping positive because they don't want to deter people from racing. They just want the money. And it's been proven year in and year out, and it will continue to be proven basically every single year until something drastically changes, that the age groupers move the needle, not the professionals.
Yeah, that's the last thing they need is some controversy, probably around, the pros. I mean,
oh gosh, and I mean, I'm sure I would. I mean, this is me totally guessing, but I mean, I am without a shot. There will be pros that pop positive. There will be, if there haven't already been, or there's. I mean, if you ask them, like I've seen multiple conversations go where like pros have made like top 5 or top 10 in like 5 or 6 races for like 3 years in a row and have never once been asked to test at a race. It's different across, whether you're doing Ironman or it's just there's cheating everywhere in life. We all know this. It's not, we're not breaking news here. People will always be willing to take shortcuts, whether it's the guy that, or the girl that cheated on the test and got through high school or whatever it is. There's always going to be people who want to take shortcuts. And while it's discouraging to see like stuff like this happen, it just, in my opinion, and I was discussing with one of my athletes earlier who's in one of those age groups that missed a Kona slot by 1 this last year. It's like, listen, does it suck? Sure. But it happens in every age group. And the fact of the matter is that, in my opinion, people who dope or people who take these supplements or whatever, and they are already people who take shortcuts. So there are lots of other areas in their training and in their racing and in their preparation and their race day execution that they probably don't pay a lot of attention to because they think that their pills or their needles or whatever is going to make them win. And it's usually more times often than not that they fail by following through with the little stuff. And so as athletes that are clean and don't abuse PEDs or however you want to call it, if we continue to do all the little things right, that people and don't take the shortcuts, then I think those ultimately and hopefully, at least that's a story I want to tell myself and in my belief in their athletes, that will eventually come out on top. And I think that's just the attitude you have to have if you want to not get so discouraged. But it is discouraging, and I know that I've seen and heard of athletes basically wanting to or having walked away from competitive triathlon in their respective age groups because they just know that these people are just doping, or they even admit to it. And it's just like, how am I supposed to win or do better? And it's discouraging, and I doubt things will change anytime soon. But hopefully the good guys can keep on winning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to think about it. I remember back in the day when I've always been into supplementation and curious about it, and I guess I just think that there is a lot of truth to the fact that just in general, we don't probably nourish ourselves as well as we should or could even sometimes because of what's going on with the mainstream diet in the United States of America. So I don't know. I've always been curious about supplements and vitamins and minerals and stuff. And back in the day, somebody gave me a Christmas gift that was called the Vitamin Bible. And this might have been like 30 years ago. And just to read, this was before vitamins were like mainstream, really. Mm-hmm. And I was always curious about it. And I always hear these stories about, like, my buddy said, my dad's 90 years old. He's been taking vitamin C, 1 pill a day. And yeah, then is it like real or is it Memorex? I don't know, or like mental. Yeah. But I definitely know that I've been a vitamin guy for years, and I still to this day, and this is like part of my minimalism and cleaning out, but I still have a cupboard that's just got a bunch of old, I never go through them, I guess is my point. So I don't know if it's like I don't give it a chance, or they really don't work, or I just, when I talk myself into believing they're going to work, I start taking them again. But I don't know, like vitamins, just in general, whether it be, I mean, I do take, probably most frequently I'll take a vitamin C and a vitamin E tablet and occasionally a multivitamin, but I don't know. You know, some people say, yeah, you know, if you feel like you're getting sick, load up. But I've, the whole PED, like age grouper sort of enhancement route, you know, I don't even know what that means necessarily. I suppose mainly it's like, wasn't this guy popped for testosterone?
Yeah, it was his second time, yeah.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that kind of stuff, like, I don't know why. You know, there's part of me that's like, okay, you're getting older, and if this stuff helps, you feel better. I'm kind of like, you know, I can kind of see it, you know. But I don't know if it becomes that big of an advantage, then, you know, yeah, that kind of sucks. But, you know, it's like everything, you know, the dude still was putting in work, I'm sure, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easier to put in a lot of work if you're jacked up on testosterone when you're in your 60s compared to everybody else, you know, from recovery and, I mean, all that kind of stuff. It's just, that's, you know, like, that's I think one of the, like, the studies I read, this has been a while, but, and then, like, the long-term benefits, like, that even after you've, like, been popped, you know, let's say like you got hit for steroids or any kind of other PED, you know, anything ending with a drawl, basically, you know, like what you're able to accomplish. Let's say you like dope for like 2 years and then you get popped and banned for 2. You're still so far ahead of the game that even when you come back and if you are clean, you're still most would argue that you're still at a competitive advantage.
Really?
Oh, think about it. So if you're, and this is why so many, like, it's more prevalent and I think yields bigger, like, winning windows as far as like 30, 40 minutes an hour in the older quote unquote populations.
I've got a guy like that in my age group.
Is a lot, yeah. Is a lot of times, I mean, the biggest benefit is how much faster you can recover and how much harder you can work. So let's take this for example. Let's say you're able to do one more super hard workout each week. That just that for 2 years. You're looking at almost 120 more hard quality sessions to where you were able to not only do them when somebody else wasn't, and then also recover from them better.
Are you saying though that you get banned and then you just keep it up and then you like taper off?
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty of them that do it.
I thought you meant
for
just, like,
sure
going off of it for 2 years and then you'd still be. But no, you're saying just if they keep up the same regimen.
Well, yeah, I am saying what you just thought I was saying is that they literally are still at a competitive advantage because of what they've done to their body and how much farther they've already gotten.
Okay.
Like even if they went clean, it doesn't just go away. And as far as like endurance sports goes, like it's not like you don't. I'm not picturing like the bodybuilder guy who's jacked up on roids for 6 years and then 6 months later he stops working out and his pecs get saggy. You know, it's the guys that, you know, the track or the cycling, like where they just do so. But I mean, for now, it's like it's not even about steroids when it comes to endurance sports. It's coming to like, you know, inhalers and you know, testosterone, all these kind of things that give you these edge. I mean, like take Chris Froome and like all the people who like, come on, man, you really thought Chris Froome was clean? Can we like stop with like the denial here? We all know that he has been and is a huge, gigantic doper, and his recent like getting popped with his inhaler and his like inhaler levels of this asthmatic drug he was taking were so off the roof that it was like 10 times what anybody would take, and of course their Team Sky is playing it off like it's you know, they have their story, but dude. Him and I imagine the top 15 or 20 tier pros in cycling are all just doing everything imaginable. And that's not even talking about like when inevitably in the next year or 2 years, there'll be a gigantic bust with people doping with motors. It's just going to happen. It's just people cheat and find a different way to cheat all the time. And it's going to continue to happen. So, you know, it's either denial or acceptance, whatever you want to say. But that's where we are.
Wow, that motor thing's a big deal, huh? You think?
Oh, I for sure think it is.
Wow. Well, it's all about money, man.
It is all about money.
In that sport. We were talking about the other day. Was it Ferdinand that threw a shot at Froome on Twitter? And then I was like, okay, so Ferdinand's got 13,000 followers and Froome's got 1.4 million on Twitter. And so I mean, people, people don't seem to really care. I don't know. It's like the controversial athlete that, in football or any sport that, just gets so famous that whole train of famousness, like, just becomes an animal to itself. It's almost like, it's just there's money behind fame, and it doesn't matter really how it gets there.
Yeah,
it seems
it doesn't.
So I don't know what that means to me as a top 30 age group guy. I'm afraid of those things, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
I remember back in, this was way before, and I may have told this story on here, but it's way back in the archives and we've all forgotten. But I was in college baseball, and my buddy was like this, he's kind of into nutrition back in the day when we weren't really into nutrition. I mean, like, even weightlifting when I played college sports was, if you weightlifted, that was kind of weird. We just played ball. And but one off season we started weightlifting, and he was all into it, and we were doing this stuff. And one day he's like, "Hey man, I got a connection for some steroids." And I really thought about it, but it scared the shit out of me, to be honest. And but it wasn't even. It was probably illegal, but nobody would have caught it. You know what I mean? Back then, it was just like. But I just was. I don't know. I don't know why it scared me back then, because I really didn't know much about it. But I guess just drugs in general have always scared me.
Yeah, but hey, it's just, there's always going to be cheating or drafting, or you have these chronic drafters and stuff like that. So there's always going to be them. We just gotta, as a clean athlete or somebody who wants to compete with integrity, you just gotta do your best and not let it bother you, and continue to do all the little things right and execute. And then when you do win and you come out on top, or you punch your ticket, or get your slot, or however you want to say it, you'll know that A, that you did it right, and B, that more than likely you beat somebody who didn't do it right.
Yeah. Let's talk about drafting for a second. Do you think it's a problem?
Yeah. But
Okay.
it's always going to be a problem.
Right. I mean, you can't avoid it sometimes. I really believe that, but you can, but it would just, when there's 15 or 20 people in a row, and what are you going to do? Pass them all? It's just like, but there are chronic drafters, like you just mentioned, and that does kind of suck. I mean, I'm not opposed to the occasional, you're caught in the 6 bike length thing or whatever, but since we're kind of talking about a little bit like cheating here, I just thought drafting would fit in there.
It's inevitable in a lot of areas, just because course congestion and multiple loop courses and 3,000 athletes, and there's just it's hard to get around, but you got to be mindful of it. It's one of those things where it's going to be, there's a whole different dynamic. It could be a whole different cast, but it's definitely a problem, just like other things are, but it kind of is what it is.
Well, I still think they went from 3 to 4 to 6 bike lengths at Ironman, just so in hopes that it may be 3.
Yeah.
And they're going to kind of look the other way at 3. But even at 3, there's there's a pretty good draft there, right?
Oh, there is, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I take it you don't want to talk about drafting anymore.
Yeah, drafting.
It fills into the cheating portion of this.
It does, and it fills into the taking of ownership on both ends. The race organizers, the course marshals, and the athletes. There are, and don't get me wrong, anybody who is listening to this podcast, who has done really any race, regardless of the distance and the amount of participants and how big or how small the race is, has seen blatant, unapologetic drafting. I've also seen basically unavoidable, quote unquote, what I would call like logistical drafting, in that you have like a 3-loop course with 3,000 athletes coming through, and it's like, how do you, like, there's not enough road, and while you should sit back, but if you think about it, like in Kona, I know it's just like renowned for being an epic draft fest.
Kona is?
Wow. 100% in the age group ranks. It is a gigantic total draft fest. I mean, you have like very minimal turns and a lot of athletes who are all pretty much the same speed, give or take a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I've seen many photos of just like blatant like pelotons. And yeah, is it some things avoidable? Sure, but you can always tell when somebody is like basically sucking on somebody's wheel for forever and they're just hitching a free ride. So again, going back to the PEDs and the drug, performance enhancing drug stuff, like it's all about there's ownership to be taken on both sides, and it's just kind of one of those things where I also think that's why draft legal triathlon has become so popular, because it's more exciting because it's short, and to be honest, there's a lot more money there, but drafting and like the amount of like course marshals they have per event, and like their willingness or unwillingness, I guess, to hand out like a 5-minute drafting penalty, where most of these people just don't care. And like if they draft for 140 miles the whole time, they're still going to get a huge gain. Even if you take out 5 minutes, they stand in the drafting penalty 10. It's just there's just the punishment,
time and energy both.
Yeah, for sure. Time and energy, effort. There just needs to be a lot stricter punishments to go around for all kinds of infractions. And I get not every infraction is the same, and people do make mistakes, and I totally acknowledge that. Everybody makes mistakes, and some people just do it out of flat out ignorance, I think, and some people make mistakes, but on the other hand, repeated mistakes aren't repeated mistakes. It's just a pattern of behavior.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest difference. And I think that there's a lot of people that I've seen, I know I've been passed on, and especially on like flat races. I remember doing Muncie a couple years ago. I got passed by like 3 guys, 2 girls, in like just a total freight train. Like it wasn't even like they didn't even give a shit. And they were just flying. I was going, I don't know, I think 22 and a half, close to 23 for that race on the bike portion, and they literally passed me like I was standing still.
Yeah.
And that's what you see some athletes do. They want to hitch a ride, and to be honest, like if you can hitch a free ride, well, it's not free. You're stealing it from somebody else and the other athletes who race and compete clean. But if you do that and you can just make it off the bike without getting hit, then you can basically just coast your way to a victory or a podium spot or a PR, because you've put in like not much at all energy compared to what you normally would have, and then to go run a split that you're really not capable of running off a appropriately executed and clean bike ride. It's just like, it's insane. But it happens, and it's every sport has something, I would say ugly about it. And drafting is drafting, and the kind of unspoken, like, we don't want to believe, and that's just the society we live in too. Like, you don't want to believe that these celebrities or people you look up to are capable of doing these things. And then they come out, and you see a lot of people who are apologists for, people. And yeah, people make mistakes, but you also should be held accountable. And so drafting is one, and honestly, like this isn't necessarily where I wanted to go in this podcast, but I'm gonna go there, and things that like aren't right about the sport. As I've had like a couple athletes reach out to me in the last, I don't know, couple days, and just expressing like questions and concerns about like how to deal with other people in the sport.
Okay.
And in a way that listen, if you're listening to this podcast and you do triathlon, you're not an idiot. Like, there are plenty of complete and utter, what's the right word? Okay. There are complete and utter tools and douchebags in this sport, just like there are in any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
And there is bullying in every area of life. And it is just as present in triathlon within local tri groups or clubs with Joe Schmo who knows everything and who belittles their other athletes who may not be as fast or as good or look as nice. And it's always the athletes who were like just frankly just piss poor and like to portray these images of like confidence and arrogance and know-all, and they really just don't know crap. But it's present in our sport as well. I don't want to call it shaming, but in some way or form it is, but it's making people uncomfortable in the sport to where it should be inclusive and not exclusive. And if hopefully, and I would imagine that those kind of individuals don't listen to our podcast, but if they do,
yeah, they do. They leave us bad reviews.
Yeah, but if you are one of those people who like belittles other triathletes or makes them feel dumb for asking questions or because they're slow or intimidates them on group rides or doesn't invite them to things because you're still stuck wearing that, being that guy from high school, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Seriously. I mean, take your hobbies somewhere else and go just get out. And it's sad that that's even a part of something that we love so much. And but it is. And take it somewhere else. Or if you see if you see somebody cheating, or you see somebody that's blatant like that, or you see somebody just being a total complete jerk to somebody else. There's certain things in life you have to stand and you have to, quote unquote, put up with and not let it bug you. But that ain't one of them, and none of them are. Whether it's, and I'm sure there are people in this podcast that listen to this podcast that have experimented with PEDs or that have blatantly drafted or that have been a complete prick to somebody else. But it doesn't mean you have to stand for it and just let it be okay. And there's no place for it in the sport. None of it is. And if you see something or you hear something, you should say something. And that's about all I got about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're all searching for our way, right? So I'm not a. I guess if and somebody asked this question when we posted that the guy who got kicked out of Ironman because of that testosterone, but I don't. I think that most, whatever they are, I think people are just sort of experimenting, trying to find ways to feel better and just get better. And then at some point, maybe it becomes a snowballing effect. And then it turns into like, I'm going to draft this whole race, or I'm going to this starts to feel good. And then it's just like you go on this, path that you can't turn around with. It's just like addiction or any other thing. And so what I'm saying is that, I'm forgiving, and I kind of get where most people are coming from when they get to that place. It doesn't mean that I agree with being a dick or a douchebag, but I'm just saying that, that's usually the problem is theirs. It's not, people are, there's something wrong or out of kilter or out of balance in their life. So it's like, I don't agree with it, and I try not to do it. I guess I can see how those things sort of manifest, and I think it's like, I played enough sports to know that, when people think they're good, they kind of like think that makes them better than other people. And triathlon is such a stupid sport to actually think that, just because you're good at triathlon that you're better than somebody in life. I mean, it's just like...
do you see what we get to wear in spandex?
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's like... I mean, Frank, let's be honest here.
Have you seen me in my aero helmet and my tri outfit?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure everyone wants to be me.
And it's honestly, it's like if you just break this down, because again, I played a lot of sports in my day, and I've been around a lot of athletes and professional athletes and super skilled, talented people. And to kind of like, put a triathlete into that world is a little bit of a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not obviously I love it and it's a great sport and I have to work hard at it to be even, presentable a lot of times. It's very difficult, but, just that endurance, I don't know. I just think that it's capable for a lot more people than maybe certain other professional sports and things of that nature may be. There's going to be outliers, there's going to be superstars and things like that. But, I mean, to actually, as an age grouper, think that you're some kind of special specimen because you're on the podium at some local triathlon, I mean, give me a break, dude. If you can't laugh at yourself and have fun and realize it's all about getting better,
seriously,
then
shake
I
agree.
yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when everybody, and this guy, by all accounts, I think the biggest issue I have with this guy is that this is like his second time around. And just blatant disregard. We had a podcast back in I want to say June when maybe it was May, June or July, but where we talked about the young lady who like purposely deflated her competitor's tire, and she said she had some like things to go through, and I totally understand. If this is a pattern, but it's about breaking it and changing it, and because that's like the old adage that I hate when you hear like, oh, people don't change, which is totally untrue. People just have the choice to change or the choice not to, and it's people that get popped repetitively. This was this gentleman's second positive test that it's just like, come on, and you got people all the time that like, hey, or you'll tell somebody who maybe knew sport, oh, that's not really, kosher or the right thing. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
And then they, what you should always do is be vocal, and you should always want to distribute your information because, knowledge is power, but knowledge also helps keep the playing field fair and help people. And really, knowledge helps in. It's not really so much that knowledge is power. It's so much that knowledge has the ability to empower people. And if you want to empower the age group athletes and the people of the sport, you have to be willing to share information and question things and be forgiving when people make mistakes and own up to them and want to make a difference. And at the same time, you got to hold people accountable who refuse to change and refuse to continue to show a pattern of behavior regardless of what it is. And again, this isn't like you don't get to make mistakes. Saying like, listen, nobody in this planet, is immune from making mistakes, and you won't meet a guy who's more understanding of what it's like to make mistakes and bounce back and change than me. But that's the thing, is that mistakes are only mistakes if you choose to change your ways. If not, it does become who you are, and it does become a pattern of behavior versus oops, I messed up, or oops, I didn't know. Because once you know, it's no longer that much of an excuse.
Do you think that can be kind of an addiction?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, even if it's the behavioral patterns like you're talking about, it's
well, there's a lot of narcissism.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff, but I mean in triathlon and sports in general. But it's that when at all costs mentality that is and can be almost like a mental illness, to where they will literally sacrifice everything in their life just to win like a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, really? If that's what you're willing to do to win a triathlon that literally less than like 1% of the world probably even knows it's even a sport, or if they do, they ask you, oh, you do triathlons? Oh, have you done that one in Hawaii? No. Oh, so how much is you've done an Ironman, right? Okay, well, no. Oh, do you do all those on the same day?
Yeah.
Okay, no. But it's like nobody even cares. But it's like, and like you said, like it's everything is more a portrayal of a person's own reality than it is anybody else's. But the more your own reality affects other people's, in certain ways, a lot of that's their choice whether to affect them or not. And the same goes for, you're gonna have all kinds of that. And this guy that this could be very well be a really, really nice guy and a great father and a great husband. Who knows? Chances are the chances are just as good he could be just an amazing dude and an amazing father, and an amazing friend as it is for him to be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And, it very well could be. And, and that's just kind of the difference in like when people take up a sport and they make it, that's the unhealthy part. And we've touched this on I think one of our very earliest podcasts of like how unhealthy the sport can be if you let it. And this is just one of those, you're not who you are your race results. You define your existence and your value by your Athlinks, result page versus the people you help or the character that you have on and off the course or doing things for other people. That's like where the sport gets stuck, and you have people who don't want to participate or who quit participating or who are like, I don't want to say selfish with their time and their knowledge and their expertise and even sometimes their money, is that they're so afraid they're going to get taken advantage over that nobody cares and everybody is just as selfish. They just don't want to share anything. And what that does, it just continues to breed a environment and a culture within our sport where everybody looks at it as a selfish sport and everybody looks at it as an expensive sport, and you have to be a white 30 to 45-year-old man to participate. And it's just like you have to look great in a medium top and a medium bottom spandex outfit to participate, and that's just not the case. But the more we close ourselves off and refuse to be open, and no matter what the topic is, or selfish with our information or our knowledge or what we know. Because really, honestly, Mike, and it's like it really comes down to feeling threatened, I think. When it comes to like sharing your knowledge, it's like, do I really want to share with you? Because what if this?
Right.
We've talked about this all the time. And when we have meetings, I'm like, yeah, like, well, at least I feel like we give out, and we've had enough emails. I feel like it justifies a comment. Like, we give out plenty and loads and loads and loads of free, what I would consider solid training information on how to construct your training plan, on how to do your runs, on how, on swim technique. We literally give it away for free.
Yep.
And have their, do I coach to make is part of the reason I coach to make a living? Absolutely. Yeah. I got to put on the table. I got a wife and child to support. Absolutely. But if I was totally paralyzed by giving away information because somebody was going to take it and run and I wasn't going to gain an athlete, then I'd probably be stuck with 10. But it's that willingness to share because you want everybody to get better, you want people to succeed, or that, listen, there is no secret recipe, then you give it away. And if you connect with somebody you connect to, and we talk about this all the time, like, what's the answer? Well, it's usually just continue to give away free stuff.
Yeah.
And people will figure things out, and yeah, it's I know this has gone off like way off the rails here, but it's part of the sport that and it's just again, as it is with most topics we cover, it's a microcosm of life. As you're afraid to hold people accountable, you're afraid to share information because you want to keep everything for you, when the reality is it's like sharing things and just basic communication with people is like one of the greatest things on earth and one of the biggest voids we have just in life in general right now, is just connecting with, like, we had a buddy of mine over for dinner, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, just over dinner one night, and we just all sat around and talked, like no TV, but no cell phones, on nothing, and it was just like that, just like little parts like human connection and camp. Like that's one of the reasons why people love coming to camp, is because like in a sport that's so lonely, and some people can be so territorial over the sport in general, or snub their nose because you don't look a certain way, or you're not a certain color, or you don't make us enough money, or your bike is a hybrid and has cages on it, or you don't know certain things. Like you can just kick back, relax, and meet good, solid, awesome people who are really just in this thing, this thing, as Steve Del Monte says, like we're all playing triathlon together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're playing any sport together, if everybody on the field is having a good time, it's great for everyone. But even if there's just that one person, you're playing a pickup basketball game or flag football or kickball or whatever, and there's that one pity party guy, or that one like just total tool who like makes a layup and does his like layup dance in the Y, literally can almost ruin it for everybody. You know what I'm talking about? You know the guy I'm talking about. And you're like, dude, come on. We're in the Y playing hoops. Give me a break. But yeah, it comes down to, communication and enjoying other people, and sharing, and really genuinely wanting other people to succeed, rather than only being obsessed with your own personal accomplishment.
Yeah, we've had a lot of... we've had and it's a learning curve. I don't think it's just like, a natural thing for everybody to do. And I remember early on we were doing podcasts, and we get off and we'd be like, damn, should we be just telling everybody all this stuff, And, especially like when you're about the stuff, about swimming and everything, and just, and we, right away we're like, yeah, I mean, we're not going to hold anything back. And I think that's, when you said play triathlon in Del Monte, and that is so true. I just remember still. I mean, I'm new enough to the sport to remember going to some of these early triathlons and being clueless, and kind of, just leaning over to the guy next to me in the transition going, hey, and getting like kind of an attitude. And, that was one of the things, as I got into this, I was super stoked about being in triathlon. And, I had I'm sure that I put on, my Facebook bio or something, triathlete, as like an identifier, as a symbol of who I am. But as that, the more I did, the more I got into it, it wasn't that. It wasn't like I had to be a triathlete anymore. I just do triathlons. Mm-hmm. And I didn't identify with that as much. But it's got to be weird, because... I've noticed that over time, the more people that I come up to and tell, without them pressing or finding out on their own that I do Ironman, whenever I would go out of my way to tell people that, they would be turned off and or not interested. But if it sort of trickles out and becomes part of the conversation, then it becomes more genuine. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean... It took me a while to learn that, that, like you're saying, nobody outside of triathlon really cares. And then to find out that once you're in triathlon, a lot of people are dicks, can be, that's a problem. I think we're, this is our own little world, and we should be cool to each other and share. And I mean, it's just because I have like a little information about tire pressure doesn't mean I'm going to beat you.
It's true. I mean, but you're so right. Like there's, and I still do it to this day. Like I don't like talking about it, and people are like, oh, so like, do you? I just tell them like I do endurance sports. Mm-hmm. Or what do you exactly do? Like I swim, and I run, or I bike some, and I try to like throw it out of words. They don't know.
Like
but
bike, they don't know what that means.
Yeah, like I just bike. Like they're like, oh, motocross. I'm like, no, I would die in like 0.2 seconds. If I did anything like that. But no, I mean, it's not listen, I'm all for acceptance, but to a point. And like, that's one of the things I always liked about Del Monte is like, I know like after one of his last like swim events was canceled, and he did his usual thing. Like he was awesome and gave people their money back. And this one guy was being like a complete jerk. And he was like, yeah, don't come back. Yeah. It's like, I love stuff like that. Like, we live in such an age where like, yeah, is the customer always right? No. Like, they're not. I know that that's like, it might not be the way to like, and listen, nobody understands this more than me having to deal with DirecTV the last 4 months. But it's just like, the customer's not, it isn't always right. And if you don't want somebody at your race or at your event or as a team, it's like you have the opportunity to just say no. Like, and we talked about in our write your own story podcast, is like you have the ability to write out a character in your story. Like, you don't have to include them if you don't want to. But giving people the opportunity, and like you said, it's just like, it's being open and being honest. And yeah, you're going to have crappy situations come up, and it is about understanding and being okay, but generally it just comes down to, if the sport is going to grow and you're going to like, X out the positive testosterone results, and you're going to, drown out the people who draft 24/7, and you're going to silence that guy or that girl in your local tri club who knows it all and who makes you feel stupid for even asking a question. If you're going to drown those people out and silence them and make them basically irrelevant, even more irrelevant than they already are, then you've got to be one of the people who is open and willing and honest with the other athletes you're around, and hand them out information and give them things. I mean, he's gonna totally hate that I did this, because that's just not who he is. But one of our athletes, Wes Keene, I was flipping through Facebook the night and I saw a post he was tagged in, and he and his wife gave somebody else one of their a tri bike that they weren't using anymore.
Just gave
it to him, so she could compete. And she's I think she's a single mom. Anyway, her situation is irrelevant. It's the gesture in that we're all in this together kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is what can, and what does on many levels, but is what can make this sport so amazing. Because we have the opportunity to connect, and we have the opportunity to embrace, and we have the opportunity to bring more people in and cultivate like just a much more open and welcoming culture to where people do it and stay. I think and just little things that like what Starkey said when we had him on the podcast was like, your goal this year should be to get 3 people to do a triathlon.
Yeah. And you don't build community by being a dick. No.
Or being selfish and not sharing. And so, it's like I think it was Molly Morgan maybe on our Christian guide said, hey, your vibe attracts your tribe. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be quote unquote just the chief with no Indians, or just the only person in your tribe, then have a good time. But in the end of the day, we're all in this together. And if the sport is going to succeed, if we're all going to succeed, then we have a much better chance of doing it by helping each other and being kind and doing things the right way than, being the guy that shames you for wearing a road helmet, or the guy that, thinks you're ridiculous for, not knowing how to put on your wetsuit the right way. Like, dude, we all do stupid shit. Like, I still do stuff to this day. I'm glad nobody was looking. I mean, I do.
I've seen you do
for sure.
many
You
stupid
have,
things.
And like, wait a minute, what am I really doing this? Like, I remember the first day I stepped on my very first practice in 8th grade football team. I put my pants on backwards. My pads were on the back, and I was like, this feels about right. With my pants on backwards, and I mean, I just got ridiculed. I was at a new school, a private school, and I never played football in my life. And I always swam, and football was like the end thing. I remember putting pants on backwards, and it was a horrific experience, and I almost quit. Ended up loving it, and loved, and was actually ended up being pretty decent at football. But it was like, it's little moments like those that you think like don't mean a lot, but when you like look at them as like a grown up, and you see how like you may laugh off like somebody's dumb question or dumb experience, like Okay, you put your wetsuit on backwards. Who cares? Guess what? I've done it before. I think I did it last year. Like going out for a practice swim because I just wasn't paying attention. It's like we all do stuff like that. Or we listen. If you're listening to this podcast, and you're trying to tell me right now you haven't fallen off your bike when one of the first 5 times you wore your new clip-in shoes, then you're lying. I think I told that story that one time when I was living in Hilton Head. I just got my clip-on bikes and I was riding home from work on the path, and I got to this stoplight and pulled up to stop and realized I had literally no idea how to clip out. This is 2006 when I lived in Hilton Head, and I get to this stoplight. I'm a guy working on the beach. I get to this stoplight, and I'm thinking about clipping out, and I don't really know how. And this car full of just smoking hot chicks pulls up, and I look over to the left, and I fall over in the most epic slow-mo fall you can imagine, and just left laying there in my humiliation. It's just we all do stuff like that, but yeah. Anyway, I know we're just going way off the rails here. Good luck writing an itemized subject heading for this podcast. But yeah, just be nicer to people.
Yeah, just be nicer to people. Do you feel like doing in-show promotion right now?
Yeah, we will now be providing IV testosterone injections on our website. You can go no, just kidding.
Under the table.
Under the table, no. Yeah, we didn't.
That's included with camp, right?
It's included with camp. When you're kicking back in your Normatec boots that we'll have at camp, you can you can get the free IV injection for sure of testosterone from Mike Terrali's safe. We have been doing a real good job, I think, of hitting people up on the first part of the podcast and thanking them for the iTunes reviews, which have been coming in strong. Really appreciate you taking the time to do those. We've had more athletes since the last cast that have hit us up again for the podcast pledge, which is on our website at crushingiron.com, where you can go and donate even just a little bit to help us keep this thing rolling and keep our costs down. And it's a huge help, and we are very, very appreciative. And that's also where at crushingiron.com, where you can find pretty much everything. Gear, we have hats and visors, shirts, swim analysis, info on our swim camps, on our triathlon camps, coaching, training plans, blog, pictures of Mike and Speedos. We got them all.
We need more of those, man.
Yeah, more of those of Mike in a Speedo, me in my tri outfit, hairy chest busting out and all. Yeah, we got those for sale. We'll send you $25 if you purchase one and get them out of our house. But no, you can always go there for a one-stop shop. And we appreciate everybody listening.
Yes, I think we've got some good ones coming up. Got some good guests ahead.
We do have some good guests ahead.
Yeah, so keep tuned. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Get that going. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pike. So we can't reveal it.
I'm just kidding. We can totally reveal it. Yeah.
Nah, I don't even. If I knew what to reveal, I would.
Okay, good. Me either.
But there's some good stuff.
Yeah, there's always good stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm looking out at more snow, and but I'm getting this feeling like it's about ready to bust open into spring, even though it's just January. But before you know it, we'll be all over the place, running into everybody that listens.
Everywhere.
All right, I guess that's it.
Sounds good.
And that was podcast number 130, Crushing Iron Podcast. And we thank you for listening.
See you, dude.
Bye-bye.